get a few people in here. I have just arrived. Time for me to thrive. I feel alive. I feel alive. Time for me to thrive. I have just arrived. Time for me to thrive. The guest is in the building, so we're just waiting for him to join. Islam,
Wow.
how are you?
Um, all is well, wealthy and healthy. How you doing?
Wealthy and healthy? Did you have a good day today?
I had an amazing day.
Good.
It's always productive.
I had a pretty good day today too. I picked up my daughter. I took her shopping, and then we made salmon together. And she played with her toys, and now she's in her room doing her thing.
Yeah, I worked all day. I had to find some office space today for the temple. I
Nice.
was running around doing that all day and just working on that class that's coming up. The class coming up Wednesday,
Wednesday.
the mentorship workshop. I'll put this to work.
I'm
So I
excited.
got the first week of documents and compiled together, organized.
Legal documents and compile. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
first I said the first week of documents.
The
The
what?
first week. Can you hear me?
Yeah, say
Well,
it one more time.
let me see. I said the first week of documents.
Week of documents. Oh,
Yeah.
that sounded funny. All right, perfect. Well, I am Shannon. I go by Shannon Rise on Instagram. I have the Shannon Rise Live Instagram interview show. I also have my brand Strict Inequality, and I'm learning from my amazing mentee, Noble Antoine Bay, on how to correct my status. And I just wanted to introduce this awesome, fine young man uh, to you all. He's definitely been a pleasure to work with. So if you want to tell them a little bit about yourself.
I'm Antoine Rai Bay, Moorish American Muslim. Um, I've been a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, body politic government. Um, I have a long resume of teaching and a long resume of getting results, court cases, um, you name it, discharge. Right now, we just trying to government build. Also, I'm the author. Let me show you something. I'm the author of the book called Thyself Law, which hasn't been fully released yet, which contains 1,200 case laws, 57 chapters on different 57 chapters is on different circumstances, you could say, all about your rights. Um, yeah, that's pretty much owner of Nation Freight Brokers, freight brokering for the Moors, etc. 850 Credit Team, Dope Babies Music Management Group, um, and a lot more to come. That's just name a few.
Yeah. Thank you. So Call Me Cindy B is asking, is there a group chat? I let her know that there is a Telegram, and then they said that they get that once they sign up.
Yeah, if they want to join the group chat, yeah, they can just forward me over the information. I can send them a link to join. Of course, that comes with being a member of our body politic.
Yes, yes, this is not a social group. That's what he said. This is not a social group. This
Yeah,
is a government, and we
indeed,
are all here to win. So,
indeed.
all right. Today's topic is identity. Identity. So, my first question is, what is an identity? I know it sounds super simple. Um, we've heard it all our lives, but break that down for me.
Okay, as always, we gotta go to Black's Law Dictionary to get an understanding of what our identity is. Just for etymology and just for transliteration purposes, start with the letter I, right? So it's all about identifying you. According to Black's Law Dictionary, fifth edition, identification is proof of identity,
Mm.
proving that a person, subject, or article before the court is the very same that he or it is alleged, charged, or reputed to be. So just off that first statement is proof of identity. It's proof of evidence. Um, because when you look up, that's identification. When you look up identity, um, or ID, it's short for identification or identity. So identity, when you look up identity, is evidence, sameness. So identity is evidence. So it's not so much of like who you are, but it's the evidence of who you are. So like when we dealing with like credit repair, a lot of times we use identity theft procedure. That's because none of these creditors, alleged creditors, can prove contract. The contract is the evidence that you owe the debt. So that's identity theft. Once they can't identify that you owe a debt, that's identity theft because they can't provide that contract. The contract is evidence. Identity is evidence. So if they don't have no evidence of the debt by way of contract, then they literally is identity theft. All definition.
So, I have a real quick question, and maybe it's not quick, but uh, when you do sign up for their services, what is it? If it's not a contract, what is it?
Is an agreement
Okay.
under the UCC. Ever since they pretty much started the negotiable instruments and the fraud with us, they've been having us sign agreements. So a contract works like two people sign it, and then both parties will get a copy of the contract. But the way they got it is that you signing things, and you the only one signing. Then another key thing on that is that it's a difference between an autograph and a signature. So a signature can be a photocopy. It can be Xerox. That's actually the signature. When you talk about an autograph, it has to be wet ink. It has to be handwritten only. See, a signature doesn't necessarily have to be handwritten. It can be a stamp.
Right.
You can literally stamp something with your name on it, and that's a signature. So they get around that by saying, okay, I got the signature, but that's why we always ask for wet ink signature. You have to specify that it's wet ink because that now alleges that you want the autograph. So the autograph proves that it's evidence of your identity.
Okay. So when people are asking for autographs, is that something like you shouldn't do, or
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you should ask for the autograph, but just simply saying wet ink signature, it means the same thing. But you have to stand on the fact that it has to be original according to the best evidence rule. Best evidence rule says that um, it can't be a photocopy. It has to be original. So after the 72-hour rule, what they do is securitize all your agreements and add lunges to it and get and put it on the bond market. So like for instance, like the mortgages go through MERS. And MERS is like a company that pool all the mortgages together and then they sell them to the IMF, International Monetary Fund. So you ask for your contract back, they can't get it because they sold it to somebody. So we've been thriving off that. 850 credit team been thriving off that for 2 years. Just knowing that alone can discharge anything. That's basically what a conditional acceptance for value is. You're asking them for proof of claim, which we know the Moors know they cannot. They don't have no proof of claim because everything they're doing is fraud. And then another point of identity theft is them calling themselves Americans. And you can go into Webster's Dictionary 1828 for the definition of American, and it says that it's applied to the copper color races, and now applied to the descendants of Europeans. So right there, that's identity theft. That's birthright theft. Because if I went to China, I couldn't just start. Me and my family started calling ourselves Chinese, and then reap the rights of a national of the China government. So that's another form of identity theft, and that's what they've been doing with these IDs. They've been performing identity theft with us.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I have so many questions, but I'm going to stick to the list. Um, what is the Real ID Act?
The Real ID Act. Let me pull it up for you on my computer. Got it pulled up already. The Real ID Act falls under House Resolution 1268. So they had a problem, they had to resolve it. House resolution is always to resolve something. So the House Resolution 1268 is the Real ID Act. And what that says is that the driver's license and state identification cards are not identification cards at all, and that they can't be used for federal purposes. So certain states had to remake their IDs, so called, and now all the new IDs, like driver's license and state IDs, and some states said they can't use it for federal purposes. Now that's because on a federal level, they have a different ID than you will use on a state level. Every level of government has their own identification. So when you're dealing with the state, their identification is a driver's license, birth certificate, and the state identification. Drive those three documents is the identification. But on a federal level, the U.S. passport is the identification. So the U.S. passport trumps the it trumps the federal state it trumps the state identification cards. So what you're dealing with is that the federal government is telling the state that they can't just be using these cards anywhere. That's what really the Real ID Act is. And then on top of that, they uh they dropped House let me tell you about this one too. They dropped 1508 18 United States Code 1028, and that was to tell people what was actually a real ID. And in that code, they told people that the nationality card is a real ID, and it's the only real ID. So when you're dealing with the passport for a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national, that would be their ID, because it actually has nationality on that card. If you look at the passport, it says the word nationality on there, and that says USA under that nationality card. That's why, as Moors, we have our own nationality cards to trump that, because on our level we have international jurisdiction. So that's over a federal jurisdiction. So on the international jurisdiction, we have allodial identification cards. So that trumps that. But the only thing about it is the IDs right now is not backed by governments. So once we finish establishing government, we can back those IDs where you can have representatives have correspondence with these corporations where you don't have problems with your IDs. Right now, a lot of these IDs floating around, truth be told, people are having problems with them. You know, they're not getting honored in all venues. They're not able to fly certain places, like out the country and come back, leave outside the United States jurisdiction and come back, and these type of things. So there's a lot of Moorish American IDs out there, travel documents, things like that, that we will be able to use in the future. But right now, the for sure bet is the U.S. passport as a U.S. national.
Okay. All right. Cool, cool, cool. How do you find out your identity?
How you find out your identity? Thirsty. How you find? My throat dry.
We did
Um,
a lot of talking, so, and I'm sure it didn't really
yeah,
work.
for real. Um, well, you find out your identity first by looking in the mirror, right? You know who you are, and basically, in international law, according to the human rights of indigenous peoples, you have the right to self-determination. So when you talk about identity and how you identify yourself, you choose that. So you have the freedom of contract, you have the freedom of will. So how you sign your names on things is how you identify yourself. If you have your own identity card, you identify yourself like you. People have different identity cards. You might have a religious card that says you're part of a religious organization. You might have a business card. So how you represent yourself is really on to your discretion. But according to international law, everyone has the right to self-determination and right to a nationality. So you don't have to never identify yourself as a state resident, driver's license holder, state identification holder, because you have that international protection to identify and self-determine your own status. So if you determine, okay, based on my ancestors, I'm indigenous and I have an indigenous status, then the human rights of indigenous people apply to you, you know, and then you have international status. So it's just about how, when you're dealing with political science, it's all about how you identify yourself on what level. So as Moors, we identify ourselves on an international level because we are indigenous to the world. There's nowhere we are not indigenous. So, um, you know, we identify like that on the highest level to connect us back to the empire.
And what indigenous rights do we hold? Just, proclaiming our new identity and all of that.
Um, where you hold what they call secure treaty rights. So you already got unalienable and inalienable rights. That's like saying you got God given rights that you was born with, birthrights. So what happens is when we had these IDs, they put names on those IDs, black, colored, Negro, to strip you of your rights. So when you rescind those IDs and then get you a nationality card, then you are reinstating your status and your birthright. So you have protections and treaties when I said secured treaty rights. So your secured treaty rights is your inalienable rights that's secured in the treaty. So when you uh, identify yourself with a nationality, you identify yourself to a treaty that secures your rights because that's the highest security agreement. So what you're doing is basically taking the lien off your rights because they put a lien on your rights. You know, if you try to exercise certain rights, you're gonna get taxed. You're gonna go to jail. For instance, the right to travel. Okay, they got the Right to Travel Act. Now, if you have the status of a resident or a U.S. citizen, then you don't have the right to travel because they have a lien on that, and the lien is called a driver or the driver's license. So the driver's license in itself is a lien. So you walk around with a lien in your pocket because it's telling you that you can't travel. It's telling you that you're a commercial driver, and it's putting you in a commercial status as a corporate ward of the state. So when you are establishing your IDs and things like that, you are taking that lien off yourself because they have a lien on those driver's license. They have a lien on those identification cards and those birth certificates. So that's what we mean when we say we have unalienable rights, meaning no one could put a lien against that. It's God given and it's secured through the treaty, and the treaty is the highest security agreement you have. See, once you're a Moorish American, you don't even have to file a UCC because you already have the highest security agreement to this land. You know, so when you say what rights do you get back by, self-determination and self-identifying as a national, you are making yourself a party to the treaty. So you automatically, when you say you're a Moor, you're putting yourself as a beneficiary to the Moroccan Empire treaties. And those treaties are non printemps, meaning for now and then. So they don't have an expiration date to them. You know, they still can be enforced through a nation state. So when we proclaim our nationality, that's the first thing you get is a nationality card. You know, and that ties you back to your benefits and your beneficiary status of the Moroccan Empire.
Thank you for breaking that.
Now,
Um, so you said that you have to proclaim your nationality first, and then you get your identification card. Um, is that how you establish your identity? Like, that's all you kind of have to do?
what as far as your paperwork side, we do the name correction process first. That's the first step after you proclaim with the government. You do your or synonymously you do a name correction, your affidavits and things like that. You have to do a name correction, and we do give notices out. But you don't necessarily have to do that now. It's just like this. How do you proclaim your nationality, or how do you correct your status? All you do is pledge allegiance to a government. You know, like I always make the example of Chinese people, but a man from China, he doesn't have to do a status correction, anything. All he has to do is get a nationality card, and that's how he identifies himself. So what we do, the Moorish Science Temple, we even make our own birth certificates, with certificate of live birth, I should say. And then we get the nationality cards, and say if you want to do a name change on your passport, we have the DS60 form. So the DS60 form eliminates you having to go to the court and do a name change. You can go right down to the passport office and bring 3 witnesses with you, and y'all can submit the DS60 form. And with they'll do is they'll change the name right on your passport for you. So it goes back to self-determination. Like really, as long as you have witnesses and proof of your identity, who you're saying you are, then no one can tell you who your name is or who you are. You know what I mean? Because with our names and titles, that's not really a representation of who we really truly are. You know what I mean? So they recognize that in the court of law, like even in a federal court. Under the notice of removal code, they put right there that they don't recognize assumed names. So, like, you can come in a federal court in any name you want to come in. And I help plenty more do that. Establish they name corrections is right in the court. It's just how you present yourself, and how you got to stand on that. Because they a lot of times will, like, when I go through the courts, they'll try to say I'm not the bank. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I'm not going to answer to anything but the bank. So they forced to call me the bank at the end of the day. And I got cases dismissed just based on their name because when you go to court, the first issue is status. So they want you to recognize the name. Are you Antoine Davis, the Strawman? No, I'm not. I'm Antoine Bay. So I'm the authorized representative. So you beat the case just off that. Because that's a challenge to the jurisdiction. Because for them to have jurisdiction over you, they have to put this name over you and put you on this court status. So, the name, determining, identifying yourself, that's on you. And that's what we mean about, standing on square. It's basically just standing on your rights. And you definitely have the right to self-identity and self-determination.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of courts, I know that there are women that are losing, their children and things like that. Is there anything that you teach within your course or your mentorship that helps women get their children back?
Oh yeah, indeed. If a woman has lost her child to the court system or to DCFS and these type of things, then she had to do estate planning. Sure, she had to go right into estate planning. She had to reverse those, like I say, names and titles and statuses of her child, because the status of the child is determined on the mother. So they are able to take her child because she hasn't proclaimed her nationality. Your nationality comes through the womb of the woman, the natal. So when a woman corrects her status, she corrects the status of her children. And then they don't have any jurisdiction over her. They don't have any jurisdiction over the children.
Even if the father currently has custody?
Well, that's kind of different because the state don't have them then. But when you're dealing with that type of issue, it's kind of different. We have to do some legal research on that. That's kind of different because both parents have rights, and possession is not against the law. So it's not like a situation where he can keep them away. He can keep them away from her. That'd be kidnapping once she correct her status. But she still would have to allow him to see the child. You know
And
what I
that's
mean?
fine. Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is the person that reached out to me, but that's fine. It's just the fact that she hasn't been able to see her child at all. So status correction will be
Yeah, she has to start with a status correction. She
okay.
she won't get anywhere unless she starts that
Okay.
status correction, and then she can restore her rights. Because then she can challenge the jurisdiction of the family court. Because family court is not recognized in the United States Constitution as an Article 3 court. If you look at Article 3 of the Constitution, it does not never mention a family court ever existing. So you gotta understand, like a family court is like a jurisdiction of a small claims court. And once you correct your status, you are in international jurisdiction. So trumping state, small claims court. All those courts have jurisdiction only if you agree. And a lot of times, what they've been getting mamas with is they own, like, I hate to say it, they own greed. So, like, a lot of times these women go down to the child support office and put these brothers on child support falsely. And then I seen personally like the situation flip where they come take the child from her, some type of way. So I've helped a few women with that situation, but a few women just didn't want to give up the child support situation. So it's a lot of contracting in that. So every situation is kind of different on that. You have to really look at. It's not like a general answer, but everything starts with the status correction for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that there is a way forward that I can present to her and I can have her reach out to you so she can get started. All right. Um, um, so you discussed traveling and just the ability to travel. You can't do that without a passport, or how do you do that?
Well, you can travel without any identification. First thing you have to know is your rights. Because if you have no right, if you don't know your rights, you have no rights. And ignorance of the law is no excuse, and that's case law. So it's like this. It's no such thing as a failure to ID. So if the police pull you over, um, if the police pull you over, and I beat a case in Harris County, Houston with this, the police pull you over, and they say, "Hey, you doing 55 and 50." Everything's based on consent. Everything's based on how you respond. So only time you have to respond according to the Fifth Amendment is when it's due process of law in place. Meaning they had a warrant, you had a affidavit attached to it, and they brought you to a judge, and you have to answer to a judge only. So once a police come to your car, you have to know your rights. You have to know you've been violated. Okay. Now, what they did with my situation was that after I explained my rights, they said, "Okay, where's your identification?" So, according to the law, you don't have to identify yourself unless it's a crime committed. So once again, going 55 and a 50 is not a crime. So if you get pulled over, it's not really about pulling out anything. It's about standing on your rights at that point. If you do give them a U.S. national passport, a lot of times they put you on a do not detain list. So they can't even write you a ticket. What I do, when I'm pulled over, I don't use a passport or anything for those type of things. We actually hand them an affidavit, and it's a notice of fee schedule attached with a police questionnaire and things like that to assert your rights. So your identification is not for when your rights are being violated. A lot of times people have that thing, when they trying to prove who they are. When I'm pulled over, I'm asking the police for his identification. He has a business card. He's supposed to have that on him at all times, and he's supposed to hand you the business card. So, it's never like you have to identify yourself. I think I got some case laws on that right here. Yeah, I do. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple case laws right out the book Our Self Law by myself. It says traffic infractions are not a crime. People versus battle. That's number one. The second one is the right to travel, the right to mode of conveyance, the right to locomotion are all absolute rights, and the police cannot make void the exercise of rights. State versus Armstead, followed by a citation. So, you once you know your rights, then the whole coin flip, you know. So I beat cases just off them just knowing that. Like I have been arrested for failure to ID before, for pulling out my nationality card, and then the police gave me a hard time, make a long story short. And then once I went to the first court date, they dropped it, just based on me standing on my rights even further, But it's no crime to if you don't even have ID on you. That's not a crime, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay. And detaining, like, I feel like that's the, like, I feel like there's so much waiting and so many different things like with time when it comes to like the government and them taking
Mhm.
our time. Can you discuss like detaining and why it's so important that they don't do that?
Yeah, that's the biggest reason why we carry that fee schedule on us. Because that fee schedule, and when you're doing your status correction, the fee schedule, what it does is a schedule of what you charge for your time.
Mm.
Um, we even yeah, because see, if I'm detained, it's 10,000 a minute,
Oof.
and then it's 5,000 for every order. So that's the number two things when you're getting pulled over. They order you and they give you time. So when people place orders, they have to pay. So that's the reason of the fee schedule. You can even get the fee schedule authenticated on the state level.
Wow.
For fur, because authentication is just evidence. Going back to identity again. So you want to have evidence on you of who you claim to be, and you want to have things to defend yourself. So when you pulled over, yeah, they on the clock because they don't have an affidavit or anything according to due process, according to the own U.S. Constitution, Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says they have to have due process when they, as soon as you've been pulled over, you've been detained. The detain and arrest is synonymous, it's the same thing. All you have to do is ask the police, "Am I free to go?" If he says no, you're not free to go, then you know you're arrested. You don't have to always go into a jailhouse to be in jail. You know, so that's how they play it, and we just have to stand on them. But the thing is like this too: by establishing government, when you pulled over, you have consular rights. That's supreme to Miranda rights. Miranda rights are only for U.S. citizens. Consulate rights are for Moorish American nationals. And when you pulled over, you supposed to have a consulate at the scene, or they supposed to take you straight to a consulate. Now, U.S. citizens and U.S. nationals, they procedure is a little bit different. You have the right not to speak. Anything you say will and can be held against you. Now, that lets you know right there, it's not about your ID cards or anything. It's about everything you say. So when you pulled over, the first thing they do is ask you questions because they trying to probe you to say the wrong thing. So what they trying to get you to say is you consent without you saying you consent. So they ask you a question, and when you answer the question, you have consented because that's what the jurisdiction is. Jurisdiction is a compound word. It has two words to it: juris and then diction. So diction is short for dictionary. So these people are putting jurisdiction over you just by your word.
They fucking with us.
Right now,
I'm like, as soon as you get to the good stuff, like
the screen
they're
kind
trying
of
to make you
it
like
might be mine.
it's okay. This is called digital redlining.
Let me see. Maybe I'll try to come out. Are you there now? Look like we
Yes,
caught up.
you're. up a little bit. It's
Yeah, I
okay.
know. Was I coming in and out? I was breaking up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Where did I leave off? Did you hear everything, or I did?
Um, so you were talking about the fact that you were talking about jurisdiction and how they basically have jurisdiction over you. I don't know. Go again. Go again.
Oh, okay. So, so jurisdiction is a compound word, right? So it's two words, juris and then diction. So diction is short for dictionary. So, and a Miranda rights is evidence that your words will and can be used against you. So that's where the jurisdictionary lies at. So what you say was going to hurt you. So what they do is ask you questions to get you to say the wrong thing. First thing they'd be like, okay, was you going 55 in a 50 mile per hour? And as soon as you answered, you gave them consent. Because the only thing they want to do is get consent from you without you knowing you gave consent because you don't understand jurisdiction. It's three forms of jurisdiction. It's personal, territorial, and subject matter jurisdiction. So you have to challenge jurisdiction when they pull you over. How do you challenge jurisdiction? By your words. So if you answer the question, then you are consenting to subject matter jurisdiction because you're talking about the subject matter of the crime or the code or the violation. You discussing that. And you discussing the way you defending yourself. So you automatically just put yourself in the defendant's seat. And they acting as the prosecutor. So when he pull you over, he's writing you the citation. He's prosecuting. So the trick is to challenge the jurisdiction. You can simply just not say anything. You can simply just tell them I don't answer questions. You can simply just hand him the fee schedule. You can do a lot of things, but one thing you don't want to do is give them subject matter jurisdiction by answering the question like, okay, I was doing 55 and a 50, and then you say something like, okay, no, I wasn't, or I was only doing 50, or I was only doing 45. You know, that's not the correct rebuttal. The correct rebuttal would be first, as a Moorish American national, I would let them know I'm a Moorish American national and I need a consulate present. Or if I don't have a consulate present, you have to go to a consulate. And I handle my fee schedule. But if you wasn't prepared to do that, then you still have rights. You still have a lot of remedy. You know, you just have to know how to word and articulate your rights. You know, in a way where it's respectful. Because a lot of times people get pulled over and it get real ugly, because they arguing or they don't know how to say the right thing. So before I even challenged the police on the side of the road, what I did was study for a while, you know. And I was getting pulled over while I was studying. It was making me mad. Like, I'm like, man, I know they ain't got jurisdiction, but I couldn't articulate it back then. So I just tell everybody, just take your time with that. But that's why we need government because it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to stand on your rights by yourself. You should have a nation behind you. So when they pull you over, it don't matter if you competent in law fully or not. You still have the protection of your government. You think all Chinese people know the law? No, they don't know no law. But what they do know is they're part of the government, and no other government has jurisdiction over them. They do know that. So that's all you have to know. And then your government has consuls, and the consuls uh, supposed to aid and assist you. And that's why you pay taxes and dues and things like that to your government, for that protection. But that's why taxation without representation is always returning because you have no representation, you have no help, you have no anything when you pulled over. You have to go pay for representation again. You have to go pay for what they call a paid lawyer representation. But your taxes, if you was truly a citizen, your taxes is supposed to afford you representation. So
That's crazy. They have a whole system set against us, and they don't. And well, the representation is shit. Excuse my language. But um, Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to leave a little bit of space open for questions. I know you have to get out of here soon. If
Yeah.
not, I'll let you go. Um, but I
Hey,
really
probably that.
appreciate you coming through as always.
Oh yeah, I got like 15 minutes. As long as I
Good.
leave by 10, I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share that I didn't ask about that you think the people should know when it comes to identity?
If you don't have no questions, I'll just read off 18 USC 1028. I'll just read
Okay.
that off real fast, 15 minutes. So, okay, 1508 specifically mentioned identification documents. 18 USC 1028. So you can find this, just a quick side note, you can find this in the Department of Justice manual. This comes out of the Department of Justice manual. If you know who the Department of Justice is, that's the Attorney General, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshals. They are the Department of Justice, DOJ. And they have a
Doesn't it
manual.
sound like silly a little bit? Department of Justice, like
They're not providing them justice for sure.
at all.
They're not providing justice, but that's what they supposedly done for the U.S. corporation. But they definitely not providing no justice. They're
At
a
all.
Department of Lawbreakers. That's what you call them. But this is right out of they documents, right? So they say right here, 1508 specifically mention identification documents, 18 USC 1028. Section 1028 of Title 18 designates three non-federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These three documents, in the absence of a national identity card, are the prime means by which an individual establishes identity in the United States. The three documents are A, a birth certificate, B, driver's license, and C, personal identification card. So this is a very important code to know because right out of the Department of Justice, they tell you if you don't have a nationality card, then you must have these three identifying documents: driver's license, state identification. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, state identification card, driver's license, and the birth certificate. Those are the three identifying documents for people who have no nationality card. So that's right on the you know, out of the horse's mouth, as they say. You know, let me show you what a nationality cards look like.
Do you have what shirt do you have on right now?
Oh yeah, we got the Namaste in my bag shirt on. Can you see it? Let me adjust the camera a little bit.
Oh, reppin'. Yo, you've been
With the
repping harder
chocolate
than
symbol on it.
me. I'm tripping. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's dope. I love it. I got some shoes to match everything. For real, I'm gonna put them on now. Let me show you. I got some Vans. Oh, shit. Just show you real quick. Just to pump your shirt, your brand. I bought some
I
shoes to
have
match.
strict inequality.
Your shirt dope, so I bought some shoes to match. I don't know if you
Oh,
see that.
does,
Some Vans.
does anybody ever say anything like when you wear it?
Oh yeah, they be asking me like, "What honesty, man?" Like that.
It might be ahead of its time, but
Oh, it's Ray had a lot of people time, but I like that because I like to open up that conversation.
good. Good. That means a lot. All right, cool. You were gonna show me a nationality card.
Yeah, so we have two cards. One when you join the government. Let me show you. Hold on.
You hear that? That's in the safe, bro. That's in the safe. Don't mess with him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't know y'all can hear that.
Yeah, I knew exactly what that was.
That's funny. Yeah, don't tell nobody. All right.
I don't know.
When you join the Moorish Science Temple of America Body Politic, this is the card the prophet has as issued. The prophet told us not to flash this to Europeans because it causes confusion. And that's back to knowing your rights, because if you know your rights, you don't have to flash this card. This card changes in your pocket because you don't even need it, because you are the card, right? You are the evidence of your identity. I'm going to read this card to you. It says, Islam Unity Allah has my name, age. You notice it doesn't have a picture, right? Um, this is your nationality identification card for the Moorish Science Temple of America and birthrights for the Moorish Americans, etc. We honor all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. May the blessings of God, of our Father Allah, be upon you that carry this card. I do hereby declare that you are Muslim under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I am a true American citizen. Noble Jew Ali the Prophet. So, you notice it don't have a picture on it, right?
Why is that?
Because you don't need one. Self-determination. I am who I say I am. I don't have to have a picture. Like when you have this is a business card form. So when you have a business card, you have to put your picture on a business card to let a person know this is who I am and call me on this number. Right. So they got to take your word for you saying this who you is, right? So that's basically the gist of this. Like, you don't have to have your picture on things and things like that. That's just the European way of doing things. That's the way they train us to think that's how we supposed to identify ourselves. The brother man Jesus in the Bible, he says, I am. And that's it. When they asked him his name, he didn't say Jesus. He said, my name is I am. So, you identify yourself as the spirit. You just define yourself as divinity. That's how I define myself. When they ask me where I live, I don't give them a mailing address or a mailing location. I tell the police I live in my body. That's how I identify myself as the spirit. I'm not the soul or the body. According to the Moorish science, I'm the spirit. So, it's all about knowing yourself. So how do you identify yourself? First rule of our Moorish science is know thyself. Once you know yourself, you know your identity. And nobody can tell you who you are, because you have international laws and protection already re-declared that for you, that you have the right to self-determination. So it's all about knowing thyself. Once we as a people know ourselves, we don't need these. We don't need no man-made things, You are who you are. You can change your name every day, but that's not going to change who you are. I go by like 3 names. I got an artist name. I got, I got all types of names. You know what I mean? But I'm the
Yeah, I
same
heard some
person.
of your music today. I was like, okay, okay.
I appreciate that, because you was going hard. Like, I don't know, I don't like, I don't know, I don't know if it's gonna
Well,
sound
let's not bring our private conversations to the stage. All I said was I heard
good.
your music. Don't worry about how I'm critiquing you prior to even hearing your music. But
Oh, you
yeah,
don't want me to tell
like
that part, okay?
don't make me mess it up.
Uh,
Anyways, we gotta go in 6 minutes.
hey, I'm
Uh,
gonna talk about stuff. I don't mean no harm.
I know you don't. I know you don't. But no, I feel like I was talking about something. You said you go by 3 names: your artist name,
Yep.
and so on and so forth.
Noble Antoine Bay, the artist name, Instagram name as well. And then, my mother called me her own little special name that I ain't telling nobody.
I was
And
like,
You know, my my son called me daddy. So everybody got a different name for me, you know. My father called me son. You know, that's his name for me. So, you know, I'm still the same person. Like everybody wear different hats, but you're still the same person under that hat, you know.
Yes. And how does it feel to know thyself? How does it feel to live in your body? How does it feel like,
Ooh,
what
man.
does it feel like, knowing that really no one can tell you who you are, no one can hold you without any like real breaking of the law? Just different things, like all the things that you discussed. Like, how does it feel?
Uh that's a great question. That's a great question. Nobody ever asked me that one. It's a gift from the curse. It's a gift from the curse because we're in a day and times where they crucify Christ, they crucify the knowing, they crucify those who know thyself. You know, how does it feel? It's powerful to know that you are Allah in the flesh, that you here to manifest anything in your head and it can come true. I mean, it's like having superpower. It's like being an X-Man. Like the X-Man was superhumans, but they couldn't fit in regular society. So it's a gift and a curse to them. Like, yeah, you got all these powers, but when you go around lower self people, they don't understand that. So it's like you stand out, they pick at you, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta have maybe to handle that, like being different, you know, sticking out, like it's okay. So like first I was in isolation a lot, but now I'm like just okay in the public, just being different. You know what I mean? Like just knowing I'm special, knowing myself amongst a lot of dead people. Like when they made that movie Sixth Sense, they said I see dead people, and that's what it's like. It's like going outside and seeing. I mean, it's like seeing zombies. Like I see dead people. People don't know themselves. They think they black and all these other things. They don't know they Allah in the flesh. You know. So how that feels, it's powerful. Like I can defeat the flesh because that's about basically what it is mind over matter. And that's the feeling you have to constantly work at. Like fasting, you know, your diet, things like that. All that's mind over matter. All that's knowing the strength of Allah and the will of Allah that's inside you. You know, so you know, once you overcome something like a bad habit or something like that, you know, it's rewarding. And you don't get no trophies for this, but you get your own rewards. You know, so that's what it feels like to me. I'm like Wolverine out here.
I respect that. I respect that. I just, I can only imagine. Like, I know how it feels to be able to speak up for myself. I know how it feels to be able to not back down from certain things that they say I have to do as far as contracts and things like that. But to like truly understand all of it, like I couldn't. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not gonna say I couldn't imagine it because I can imagine it, but I'm looking forward to it. So thank you so much. I know that I I kind of don't want to touch on this, but I kind of do. But um, they had the Remedy tour, um, and I know that there's some controversy around what they're actually teaching and things like that. But do you have any advice for those that are seeking mentorship from that clique, that group of people?
Well, you know, those are my brothers. So I always it's like this. Like I'm gonna tell my brothers the truth, right? And we gonna fight or whatever, but we brothers. So, you know, they do help wake a lot of people up out of their darkness. Now what I tell people is this, and it's all honesty. Our self-law master is a great tool for the people. It's a one-stop shop. You can go to the internet and get a lot of remedies. Now, is that the know all be all? No. It's always more to learn, always more to know. You know, so it's on each person that comes through these channels to do their own study, to find themselves, and not take anyone word for anything and double check everybody, even me. I'm open for scrutiny. I'm open for criticism. You know, when I put myself out here on these platforms, that's exactly what I do. It's like being a rapper on stage. You gotta handle being booed sometimes. So yeah, just do your own studies. That's how I came in. I didn't have you know, a lot of brothers and mentors. When I have any mentor, uh, my library, my mentors, my books, and law professors and authors and things like that. I had guidance through certain grand sheiks like Tariq Bey on the YouTube. I had guidance through the temple, the grand sheiks in the temples. I have guidance from Moors does not proclaim Moors, you know, melanated brothers. I had guys from Europeans, like Bill Donahue. You know, he's one of the greatest Bible teachers it is on the esoteric meanings of the Bible. So just go on your own journey. It's a journey for everybody in their own journey, you know. So along this journey, use all the tools you can, you know. If it don't apply, then let it fly, you know. But don't throw out what they say the baby with the bathwater, you know, type thing. So it's truth in everything, you know. So just do your own studies and you will find your way, you know. But for me, you know, the thing is this hierarchy's the government, right? So my discrepancy with everything is this. If we're gonna let's build a government, let's stop playing with these people, let's get it done if we got the means to do it. And let's tie ourselves back to this ancient flag, because this is the flag of our ancestors. Anything that's not tying to that is putting you right back to slavery. We are not Indians, you know, we're not Indians. This is not India. We're not native. Native is a servant. We are Moors. And that's what my studies have led me. Not no mentor or anybody else. My own studies led me to know who I was. My intuitions and my meditations and all that led me with the studies to who I am. And it will lead you to Allah's your guidance. You know, the intuition, third eye, that's your guidance. So let it guide you. Indeed.
Okay, I took you 2 minutes over your time, and my
Oh.
bad.
Oh, yeah, I gotta
So
get out of
go
here.
ahead and jump off of here, and thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
Okay.
And we're talking about trust next week, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna send you an updated I did an update status checklist. So it's some added things on there. I don't know if you
Oh,
want to extend it.
yes. Just,
Yeah, we got some
stretch it
bonus.
out, huh?
Yeah, we got bonus some
Maybe
bonus
you'll have to
procedures.
add some more
Yeah,
things onto the flyer.
yeah.
All right, I'm down. I'm down for the people. All right, well, it's been a pleasure. I hope you have an enjoyable night, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I don't never thank you enough, but thank you for having me too. And people should be thanking you also, you know, for sure. Because you do this and sacrifice your time and put your time to the side and make sure you're on time. You make sure I'm on time. You make sure we on point.
I was
It's a
on
lot.
time last week.
Yeah. So all honest to you as well.
All right, well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Peace and love.
Peace and love. um, well, I'm glad that we got to meet today. I'm glad that all of you guys got to join, and I do hope that you tap in with him for his mentorship program, so we can build this government and be one. It's the only way to go for sure. Um, and make sure you're good to each other. Make sure you love each other. Make sure you're kind to each other. It is free. It is free. Take care and be aware. Time for me to thrive. Yes, saving the life, I promise.